From today, 7th of December, PlayStation Plus subscribers can play LEGO DC Supervillains, Mortal Shell, and Godfall Challenger Edition. All for free. But are they any good? Hello, I'm Phil. You're watching UnCapt Gaming, and this is On the Plus Side, where we give our take on the free games available to PlayStation Plus subscribers. PS Plus is the subscription service for online multiplayer gameplay. Each month, as an added bonus, members get access to 2 PS4 games and 1 PS5 game. If claimed during the month, the games remain available for as long as you remain a member of PS Plus. Subscribe now to stay up to date with the new releases each month and what we think of them. LEGO DC Supervillains is both the oldest of the lineup this month, originally released in October 2018, and the best received, being nominated for a number of awards including Best Console Game at the 2018 Gamescom Awards. The game opens with Commissioner Gordon talking to Lex Luthor in Rikers Island, asking him to help evaluate a new villain in exchange for time off his sentence. The new villain is you, and after customizing and naming your character, you're thrust into an escape scenario with Luthor. Your breakout is interrupted by the Justice League, but then you take control of the Joker and Harley Quinn, who use the chaos of the moment to get on with their own caper, until Harley witnesses the superheroes' evil Earth 3 equivalents trapping them in order to wreak their own havoc. Unfortunately, the other villains don't seem to believe her, or care too much, and she's dragged along with the latest scheme whilst wondering what Ultraman and co are up to. It's an interesting premise, and one that DC fans will likely already be familiar with. No doubt setting up for the DC villains to be the heroes when they take on the evil Justice League. It also reminds me of how much I enjoyed the animated movie, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. The game looks great as well, it has to be said. I was a big fan of the LEGO movie and the LEGO Batman movie, and in terms of graphical quality the games hold up well against them. That's definitely a positive. Unfortunately, for me at least, the gameplay lost my interest almost immediately. It wasn't terrible, but nor did it particularly stand out. It felt as though I was just going through the motions, bashing buttons without much purpose in between completing a succession of very simple QTE prompts. This is largely how the LEGO games play, so if you enjoyed other LEGO titles, it won't be a significant issue. It just stuck out to me as they're not the kind of game I ordinarily play. The main challenges presented were standing in exactly the right position so that pressing circle did the thing required to advance, rather than some other things such as chuck a bomb. There is a character swap mechanic in the game, but this too felt like at least in that first hour it was wasting its potential. Leaving aside my annoyance when there was a multitude of playable characters in a room and Triangle invariably swapped me to the wrong one because I wasn't facing the correct way in the moment. It didn't feel hugely innovative that you switched to Harley Quinn to whack things or swing on poles, then to Joker to recruit goons, so that all 4 of them could form a pole for you to climb, or 3 of them could help you pull a door open. Hopefully, as the game advances, that mechanic develops and takes on more of a puzzle element with variety. As for me, it got old fast, and over a whole game, it could become tedious if it didn't evolve. With that said, my complaints probably sum up that this game is ultimately a family game and aimed at a younger audience. The gameplay shortcomings are certainly propped up by the look and the story, which is the sort of thing you'd ultimately buy a LEGO DC game for, so I don't want to be too harsh on it. Based on the first hour of gameplay, I'd say add it to your backlog.
Sounds like you're out of time, Beth.
Mortal Shell is a Souls-like that came out last year to generally favourable reviews. Its opening pretty much immediately hooked me in. You start off as an unidentified creature, which looks like a not quite human revenant, rising from death in a strange waterlogged void. This is the tutorial area, and as you pass through it, you're taken through the basic mechanics of the game's combat before being thrust into the world proper. Here, we discover the central conceit of the game. Your character can wear human characters as shells, each one with their own basic skills and identity. As we start, we're tasked with finding the name of our current shell in order to unlock its power, and we start travelling through a landscape filled with enemies. Given that it's a Souls-like, it should be no surprise that Mortal Shell has the look and feel of something akin to Dark Souls. The tone of the world you walk through is very reminiscent of the From Software games, albeit slightly more green, while the basic mechanics are, with two exceptions, near identical. Those exceptions are important though. The Harden mechanic allows you to turn to stone for a short time, both as a defense against attacks and whilst attacking to give your moves extra oomph. This takes a little getting used to, but it's very effective, particularly before you gain and master the parry ability. Unlike the Soulsborne games, here parry isn't an innate mechanic but something you gain from a character you encounter in the world. It also feels, at least on my initial hour of playtime, like it takes more mastery than the FromSoft parry, and the Harden mechanic appears to be more integral to the combat than the parry. The story I've seen so far is very thin, with lots of intrigue and very little explicitly spelled out. But again, this is a hallmark of the genre, and what it set up was certainly enough to capture my imagination. The world didn't appear derivative, despite its clear homage to Dark Souls, and you feel as though you're standing in a fully realised world. The combat is, at moments, clunkier than I prefer, but for the most part this seems intentional. As with Dark Souls, to undertake an action is to commit to it, and a key part of the difficulty is the need to master those mechanics. The only time any of it felt cheap was when attacking an archer tipped me past the crevice, and, with him still attacking me, I was slowly pulled down the cliffside to my doom. Otherwise, it felt a worthy experience, and one I may well revisit. Based on the first hour of gameplay, I'd say download and play immediately.
I've kept your flesh safe, foundling.
It was all a lie.
Finally, Godfall was a PS5 launch title, though not an exclusive. It was subsequently released for PS4 in August this year. Besides the reviews being mixed or average, the other thing to note before diving in is that you're not actually getting the full game here. The Challenger Edition skips the story content of both the base game and its Fire and Darkness expansion to thrust you straight into endgame content. On the one hand, you can instantly jump to level 50, whilst on the other, you miss out on a significant chunk of the game. Or, if the main thing you play these types of game for is the story and the campaign, you're missing everything you might actually want. Even if you're not interested in story, and with the level jump, the big loss here is the time the campaign would give you to get acquainted with the game's combat and mechanics before taking on specialised modes. The Challenger Edition does try to compensate for this by letting you play the tutorial level of the base game before diving into the bulk of its content. However, this feels like an unfair tease, as you get to glimpse the start of the main story, and it honestly looks really good. Godfall's graphics are really polished, and the opening feels like the start of a cinematic high fantasy epic. The aesthetic of pseudo-robotic medieval high fantasy looks gorgeous, even if the opening of the story, brothers at war, a powerful demagogue turning the kingdom against itself, isn't anything particularly new. There are enough unanswered questions in the opening to make me want to know more, but whether the story provides satisfying answers is something I can't discover without paying to upgrade to the Deluxe Edition. Instead, after the tutorial, we're leveled up and thrown into the DLC. That DLC might be fun and exciting if you've had the chance to play through the base game and relished an extra challenge. Instead, despite the level up, it feels like being plunged into something that you're ill prepared for. In the tutorial, the combat gradually escalates as you learn new mechanics, and it really does feel fresh. The basics of the combat are the same as any such games, with heavy and light attacks and parries, but additions such as being able to throw your shield and multiple attack combos make you feel a lot more organic and intense. However, as soon as you dive into the endgame content, there's still a significant difficulty jump from the tutorial boss to the endgame, so it's easy to feel massively out of your depth. Getting to play the tutorial doesn't substitute for getting to properly get to grips with the systems through a full playthrough of the base game and a sensible progression and challenge. Some players may relish such a steep learning curve and challenge, but for many others it's likely to make it easier to take or leave the game. I can't say whether the base game lives up to the potential I saw in it, having not played it, but you can really feel its absence in the Godfall edition, and even having only just got to the endgame content towards the end of the first hour, it felt like skipping to a brick wall, which didn't feel like it would be fun to persevere with. Based on the first hour of gameplay, I'd say don't bother with it.
Macros sold us a vision he never believed in.
Let us know if you've played any of this month's PS Plus games and what you thought of them. Did you get on better than I did with Godfall Challenger Edition? Do you have a different take on LEGO DC Supervillains or Mortal Shell? Tell us in the comments. Cheers for watching. See you next time.